Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the NOLA Catholic Parenting Podcast. We've been on hiatus for a few months, so what better time to revive it than in the summer? This is the time we're all supposed to be catching a breath, or at least it's supposed to be, but summertime for many parents can be more hectic than the regular school year, especially if a parent has multiple kids, like from camps and field trips during the day to sports and activities at night and trying to fit vacation in between. It can all be exhausting. So today I've invited NOLA Catholic Parenting's columnist and blogger, Charla Misse, Mount Carmel Academy's assistant principal and camp director, Denna Cheramie, and the University of Holy Cross's Dr. Ryan White, who's the clinical director of the Thomas E. Chambers Counseling and Training Center, in hopes that you as our audience will glean a few ideas and maybe create a respite over the last month in the summer before school starts. So good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, well, Charla, I'm going to start with you. So how's summer going so far? And how are you entertaining your son?
We are having a beautiful summer. Thank you. We are doing some different things this summer. My son has various interests, and we are very fortunate to have him enrolled in different camps that address those interests. But we're making a more concerted effort to take some time together as a family. So interesting. What happened was there's this exhibit, or was an exhibit at NOMA, the New Orleans Museum of Art, Arte Sacra, which is religious art, Roman Catholic art from Portuguese India.
Oh.
And I had it on my calendar. I want to go. I want to see this. I want to see this. I could never make time to go. And then summer started, and I told my son, we're taking a field trip. So he'd been to NOMA before, and we enjoy it very much.
It's a great place.
Yeah. And, you know, there's so many different things you can draw upon for inspiration. We actually looked at that exhibit, but we walked around, and, you know, he has other interests like video games and things, but he'll see things there and draw upon those things and you know, give me the opportunity to explore more with him, different artists or different materials and things like that. But so we went to that exhibit together and really enjoyed it. And so I decided that, you know, the next week we were going to go to the Children's Museum. It was opening for the first week. So we headed over, and children just like pouring out of cars, and there was a long line. Of course, this was the first week. And we are not crazy about crowds. And so this was just, especially now, you know, we're really not used to crowds. So that was a little intimidating, and we didn't even attempt it. We turned around and we went to the botanical gardens.
Oh.
And it was kind of a drizzly, rainy day. It was just us. It was very peaceful, and we got to really be together and see some things that inspired us to study further. He actually was interested in cacti, so we started studying, and they have an exhibit there in succulents and cacti. But so now my wheels are turning. I'm thinking, okay, every week we're going to go on a field trip.
Well, what a great idea.
So I'm trying to think, you know, just a little, you know, something just the two of us that we can do something together. Right. So I'm thinking what can, you know, different museums and things like that. And then we had an appointment on Canal Street. And almost every time I go down Canal, I tell Blaze, I want to take you to that church, St. Anthony of Padua. I went there lunchtime mass, and it's really the first time I've been, and I grew up here. It's the first time I've been there. It's beautiful. Okay. And so I wanted him to see that church. So after our appointment, I said, let's stop into the church. And we were there for 30 minutes. We enjoyed the architecture. We enjoyed the artwork, and really looked around, and because I made sure there was no mass at that time, and that was it. That was kind of the starting point for me. I really couldn't find anything, you know, different museums to visit that I thought would be really attention grabbing for him.
Right, age appropriate, right?
But visiting churches is our thing.
Okay.
So, you know, after that, I mean, it was really, and what I did was before we went, we listened to a podcast of St. Anthony of Padua. They have this Saint Stories for Kids from Shining Light Dolls podcast. And we listen to this, and we do listen to those, and we listen to especially St. Anthony of Padua story. And so it really brought, it to life for us to be there.
Dena's been director of Mount Carmel's camp from the beginning. Is that right? It's over 20 years now?
Over 20 years, yes.
Oh my goodness.
I believe I can be that old. Yes.
Well,
yes.
tell me, I mean, a lot of kids have been coming back to camp, like on average, like what have you been seeing in camp every year?
Yes. So this year we're at 700 plus, which is pretty much where we were before COVID. So we could have, I probably taken twice as many if we had the room.
That is phenomenal.
A lot of people we had to turn away this summer, unfortunately.
Well, what are some of the most, I guess, popular activities that you see? You've been doing this for so long. What do kids like? I'm sure it's a lot different today than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, some, we have some of our favorites that have been with us from the beginning. For example, cooking and sewing, they are always popular. Our art-based camps, we have a lot of those, and they're always popular as well. Sports and dance as well, some of the same ones, but we do try to every year offer some unique experiences as well. And I think a lot of our parents and our girls are looking for that, something different. So over the years, things like ooey gooey sign making camp, extremely popular.
Yeah, my granddaughter did that one year.
Yeah, the MakerBot 3D camp, very popular. This year, probably one of our most popular. I mean, I might have had 80 kids on the waiting list for this. Was virtual interior design. So looking for something unique. That's part of, I think, what our parents and our students are looking for.
Well, Dr. White, I wanted to bring you into the conversation. So what do you think is the most important aspect of summer for families and, to concentrate on with kids?
So you had mentioned at the beginning that ideally, summer should be a period of relaxation and recharging, but this summer in particular is also a period of transition, as we're not out of the woods on this pandemic yet, but we're getting to a point where society is beginning to reopen. So this upcoming fall is going to look very different. And this summer is an opportunity to help families and to help the children specifically be as prepared for that as possible, to create and adjust to a new normal. To provide some stability, some opportunity for them to recover from all of their experiences this past year and to emphasize their growth and their development.
Well, have you found in talking to families in counseling that families are starting to generate like new ways to strengthen themselves during the summer than they might not have because they were so used to, put the kids in camp, they're playing sports at night, are you talking to them about how they're doing things? Sounds like Charla has found new ways to entertain her son. Are you hearing that a lot?
Well, over the past year, families had to get creative because most of the options that would have been available to them, even in this past fall and spring, weren't. Things are beginning to reopen. I mean, we have thought about going to the Children's Museum, 6 months ago, but there's still a need for some of that creativity, finding things to do at home as a family unit, or if you can't rely necessarily on the activities you would have sent them off to on their own, finding those family outings and opportunities to have togetherness that way.
Okay. All right. Well, Charla, you were starting to talk about a few things that you're doing with your son. So you've gone to museums and you're visiting churches.
Yeah.
I guess, how else is your son saying, hey, I need to get outside? Is he making suggestions on what to do? Is he part of the conversation?
Yeah. So what stimulates that conversation, I find, is the library. So sometimes, and we're so fortunate that the libraries are open again. So we can go visit and actually browse because, in the beginning, when they first opened again, I would go online and maybe, reserve some books, but his being there and browsing and finding some things has led us to different places and different things to research. So, like he's interested in addition to cacti, he's interested in fungi. So something I would not normally have come across, but
Sounds
he
like a
found
boy,
book
huh?
yeah. So that's where we're finding inspiration. And, you know, I would find something and think, oh yeah, we're definitely going to have art projects and math, you know, from this. And then he might not be so interested. But then if he found something, you know, I can really work off of that.
hmm Well, Dina, I wanted to go back to you and ask about, okay, you've got 700 kids and, you know, COVID is still not over, but at least it's kind of containable at this moment. So what are you guys doing differently, like precaution wise to keep them safe, yet continue what I guess the kids love to do?
Sure. So I think one of the things we did, not necessarily because of COVID, but helped us with our numbers, was expand the number of sessions available per time frame. So for example, where we might have had 2 years ago 5 different choices for the 5th through 8th graders, we have 7. That way we can keep our groups a little bit smaller than they would have been in the past. Last year, obviously, there was a need to make them even smaller still. What we did was, you know, registration happened right almost at the same exact time that the schools were closing down. So our first step was just to close registration
Right.
and just to try to commit to the parents that we had already, not take anyone else. So we were able to reduce our numbers. But this year, because we do have, we probably not at the number we would have been in the years past, but because we had more sessions, we kept smaller camps. So that was one thing. Of course, the biggest deal this year, the big difference this year is the mask. So last year, everybody all the time had to wear a mask, and that's
Right.
it was tough. It was tough in the school year, and I know that's not this conversation, but so that's different, and so it's a different feel. We do ask them to bring a mask, and some kids are wearing them on their own, and some counselors and some teachers as well. And at times in certain activities, teachers may ask them to all put on a mask as well. But for the most part, they don't need to wear it all the time. That said, we talked about different numbers. One of the things we did differently than in the past is before we all had lunch at one time. You can only imagine that scene. Lots of fun and lots of noise, but lots of people. And that couldn't happen. So last year, we didn't do it at all. We had lunch in the classrooms. We had snacks in the classroom. So they stayed with their little small group and nobody else all day. This year we expanded it a little bit, but we definitely don't have everybody at lunch at one time. We have we opened the second cafeteria open for that, and we separated the groups as well. So they're eating at different times just to keep those numbers down as well.
All right. Well, Dr. White, I wanted to come back to you again, because I know last year probably that some of the discussions with the struggles that families were having being together 24/7, that's what you heard all the time. So I wondered in family counseling what you're hearing this summer. Has the conversation changed at all? Because things like Mount Carmel's camp have opened up, and museums have opened up, things have opened up. What are you hearing, and what are your counselors hearing?
So I think those are the two biggest changes. Are one, things are opening up, so families aren't experiencing the wonders of cabin fever with each other on a constant basis to the same extent that they were, months and months ago. But also that school is out. One of the chief, I hesitate to call it complaints, but issues that families were working with was the difficulty of navigating online learning. And while certainly the summer still affords many opportunities for children to learn and to develop academically, athletically, etc., it's not the same. It's easier for the ones who have avoided summer school by being able to relieve that burden for at least a little bit. So that's been the biggest two changes, I think.
Okay. Have you been hearing from parents that they were concerned, like Dina was just saying, some of the campers still wear their masks?
Mm-hmm.
Are you hearing, oh, what should we do to stay safe? And if you're hearing that, what kind of precautions are you suggesting that parents might take if they are concerned about, since younger kids especially, have not been able to get vaccinated at this point yet?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of that's going to vary depending on the opinions of the family and health concerns that run in the family and the kinds of things that they know they've had to be worried about in the past and how that might play into what they have to be worried about now. I would recommend, that for any family that is concerned, to scout out what safety precautions for health are being taken by whatever activities they're planning on taking part in, or facilities they're planning on visiting. And if they feel more comfortable having their child wear a mask, then have their child wear a mask. If they feel more comfortable going to places where most of the people are wearing masks, then there is that. And then this is slightly off topic, but another safety concern for families during the summer that was complicated a lot last year by the pandemic, and will still to some extent be complicated by it this year, is hurricane season.
Oh.
And having to account for all of that also, when you're looking ahead to the summer and saying, these are all of the things that I want us to be able to do now that we have the opportunity. Well, don't get so excited about that you forget that it is still a New Orleans summer.
Right.
Yeah, we constantly have these crazy weather situations where, a little storm can cause flooding in the street. It's just been kind of insane. Well, all last year I was hearing people just not being able to go to camp, not being able to go to mass, and people are just missing being together. And so I started thinking, what about the faith elements, and what maybe everybody's trying to do to keep faith together, especially during the summer, because you always hear in mass, the priest saying, hey, don't forget, you're on vacation, but there's churches all over the United States, the world, wherever you go, you can find a church. So I was thinking, how do we maintain faith during the summer? So Charla, tell me how you guys are. It sounds like the church tour is kind of
Right.
one of the things that you're doing. Are y'all doing anything else as faith-wise? Because I saw you had that blog, that beautiful blog about having the holy water, and you guys bless each other and yourselves. So tell me how you were inspired to bring that into your home.
Wow. I think I attended a presentation and at church, and Father at St. Dominic blessed water and had water bottles available for people to take home. And this might have been 2 years ago. And I brought one home, and then I guess got into the habit of using it in the mornings. But, and it would kind of come and go. But now, I think it really started at the beginning when Blaze went back to school, when my son went back to school. We would gather together because now we're, I guess, more into a routine that we're leaving the house. And, we would kind of come together in the morning. And I did learn that parents can bless their children with holy water. And so I'll bless my son, and then we'll all say a prayer before we walk out the door. Something that happened last summer was, and you may be familiar with this, people started putting the Divine Mercy image on their front doors. And so we did that, and it was last year was complicated for us. It was difficult, but we made an effort to always come together at 3:00. We had the alarm set, and we would come together, and no matter what was happening, we would say the Divine Mercy prayer together at the front door. So that was a way, and we've kind of fallen off doing that again. But I think recently we started again, and I think it's really nice to make that something, I guess, on your schedule, at least for us, because we're kind of organized, to have something, pull us together and pray together.
Right. So that faith for you became, especially last year, a respite during the crazy day that you were going through.
Definitely, to center ourselves before the Divine Mercy image, and then go back to whatever we were doing. I really wanted to have the whole hour holy, but that was Mom. But at least, we came together at that point, and whatever stress was happening, it was kind of really a relief for us. I think I could see it. I could see it when we'd get together in the foyer.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Denna, I know Mount Carmel's a very faith-filled high school, and you all have programs that keep the girls, talking about their faith during the day in groups. And so I wonder, in camp, how do you keep the faith element in a camp situation when you've got all these kids and all these activities going on at the same time?
As Charlotte said, we do have some some set times every day that we're praying for sure, beginning at camp every day before lunch, of course, and at the end of the day. So, those are givens, of course. But I actually, I like the holy water thing. I was just thinking as she was talking about it, it's like, I think I can maybe do something with that. I love the blessing in the holy water thing. So, but I think
Thank you.
aside from the formal prayer, a couple of things came right to mind. One, not so much with the campers, but with our counselors. We have today, for example, a good 100 girls here giving apostolic service. They're not getting paid. They're just doing service hours for their school and for their church and for their faith. So, just that and explaining why. We also have a service learning camp that goes out. It's our incoming 8th graders who go out and, take the bus out and do service in the community in various different places that they go to get them started on that journey of apostolic service and the importance of it. And they reflect on it. And we have 2 religion teachers who are running that program. We're happy to have that back because last summer we had to drop it. We had it, but they had to stay on campus, and it was a little bit different. So, but with the campers themselves, I feel like I love the question because I think it's just so important, and it's something that we talk to our teachers and our counselors so much about because when they come to us, it's an opportunity to build relationship, and it's through the interaction that we're going to be Catholic. Yes, you can say prayers all day, but it's through how you treat one another every part of the day with respect and loving them as Jesus loves us and forgiving them as Jesus forgives us. We stress so much being welcoming and being inclusive. We try to talk to our counselors at the beginning and say, look around the cafeteria. If you see someone that doesn't seem to be having someone, make sure that you reach out to them. Yeah. And of course, through discipline, we don't really have too many issues, but we still use the old WWJD. Remember the bracelets and all that. And when you do have an issue where it's like, come on, now is this how Jesus would want us to treat one another? So when we do have an opportunity to have to discipline, we definitely come from it from a Catholic perspective.
Well, being that Christ-like example, I mean, that's always, it seems like the best way to be, because kids see you and they love the older kids. And so they definitely weren't going to want to follow what they're doing because, they're the older kids, and they know what to do. And so that always seems to be the best way to be Christ-like. So thank you for sharing that part. Well, Dr. White, I wanted to close with you. If you had any final suggestions of what families can do, to keep God in the mix and not make it so frantic this last month of summer.
I want to follow up on some of what was just said, in addition to incorporating spirituality through prayer or through, renewed opportunities to resume that stability of church going, if that's what a family does. We work with many of our clients to increase their mindfulness, their ability to live in and experience the moment. And for someone who is operating from a perspective of faith, to incorporate their spirituality into that state of mindfulness. And so that can extend not only to the individual, but also to the family. How is the family spending its time this summer in a way that effectively incorporates their spiritual values, allows them to experience the moments afforded to them to the fullest. And also, again, from a parenting perspective, looking at the child and thinking, how can I best arrange this so that it emphasizes their growth as a person, rather than just entirely from a perspective of relaxation. And so those are the kinds of conversations you can have when trying to figure out how you're going to approach the new normal that is developing this summer.
Right. Well, some great thoughts. I really appreciate that. And thank all of you for joining us today. And I wanted to say, if anybody wanted to access the counseling center at the University of Holy Cross, it's on the Algiers campus on Woodland Drive, and it's open Monday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. So they have a wide range of times. And you can also do the telehealth, since they started that since the COVID crisis was happening. And you can call Dr. White if you want at 504-398-2168. So I just wanted to put that in there because I know a lot of people are still struggling from COVID, and to know that that's there as a resource, a Catholic resource for people. I thought that was an important thing to mention. So that's it for today. Thank you, Charla and Denna and Dr. White, for joining us. And thank you out there for listening. And stay tuned for our next NOLA Catholic Parenting podcast. In the meantime, check out NOLA Catholic Parenting in our printed Clarion Heralds, available at Mass in the back and also at a bunch of retail outlets. And you can go online anytime at clarionherald.org and find our blogs. They're 3 times a week at nolacatholicparenting.org. Thank you, guys.